The Online Journal of a Lone Wolf. Video log entry number 2. So, I figured it was high time that I get another one of these up. Just going over a little bit more details about Jack Wolf and his lifestyles, his flaws, his pluses, and just in general, really. I want to keep it real. I want to keep it simple, but at the same time, I feel like I feel the need to make it a little bit more in depth than just me talking over the basic stuff, but give it a little bit more character into my life as it is nowadays. I talk a lot in general, generalizations as far as how I tend to talk about myself. And in my previous video log entry, I kept it quite simple. I tend to have that habit of when I'm talking about myself, I keep it very kind of restricted, I guess. And that's my I guess you could say that's my introverted nature. I feel like I don't really need to go in a whole lot of detail when it's in regards to me. But so far, basically all I've covered is my romantic life as it is, and the basics of how I and the reasons why I'm a lone wolf, But in this episode, it might be a little longer. So sit back or lay back and just relax and listen as I tell another story. That's my life story, by the way. So on the other one, I went over briefly about, my reasons for being a lone wolf, and one of them that I mentioned in there was, relationships, and why I choose not to be in them, and why I choose to stay alone. I think I should kind of go back, take a step back, and go from the beginning. So I was born in 1970 in a small town in Shawnee, Oklahoma. And back then it was a very small town. Oklahoma is full of a lot of Indian reservations, of course. Regards to that history-wise of Oklahoma, that's how Oklahoma got started. Back when they were migrating the Indians, they picked Oklahoma to be the place where they would transfer them for their tribes, And Shawnee was one of them. But when I was born, my father was in the Navy. He was a Vietnam veteran, but he was in the Navy. And at that time, it was pretty rough. We weren't a rich family. But I didn't stay very long in Shawnee. Not very long at all. We moved around a lot as a family. And 3 years later, they had my sister. So we were 3 years apart. But anyway, we moved around quite a bit. And growing up, I kind of I guess that's how I developed a lot of my solitary ways. But going from school to school and town to town. But I kind of loved it as I got older, so Yeah, that's why in the previous log entry I said, I was probably born this way. And I still think that I was, I feel very strongly about that. I was always the curious kid, but I was curious from a distance, I wanted to know everything, I wanted to fill my brain with everything, everything that drew my interest, But as far as friends and stuff like that, that is one factor probably, when you're going from place to place and house to house, you have to readjust. But as I grew older, especially in my middle school years, I really was kind of like an outcast. I was an outsider, more like, I shouldn't say outcast. I was more of an outsider. I guess you could say I was a pretty smart kid, but I always wanted to be not in the groups, but just outside, and I was always curious, and observant. I was real big on history and science, but history a lot. I always wanted to know how things worked. And the science side of that, and which got me in trouble a lot, was I always wanted to take things apart, see how they worked on the inside and attempt to put them back together or create different gadgets, But moving from town to town, as that went on, we traveled a lot too as a family. There was times when things weren't going so well, and we would literally just live out in the woods. We would go to places, because back then, you could go to like natural state parks, natural forests and all that. And I remember my father, he had a huge tent. It was like one of the, not like a carnival tent, but it was a huge, like, family sized tent. And it was real insulated and all that, and we always carried all of our own stuff, like portable stoves, and we would go around and live in places like that for months upon a time. And that's where I learned basically my kind of nature side, wanting to live off the land, right? My father taught me a lot of things. He taught me how to survive in those situations where things were rough. He taught me how to survive as far as survival basics, like hunting and hunting the proper way, only when you needed food, that you shouldn't do it out of sport, but do it out of necessity. And taught me how to set traps and all that stuff. And that right there, those times, because I was in my my teen years at that time, I think going on from like 12 to 15, and I loved every second of that, and I always wanted to be on my own. I had to learn everything on my own. I never really liked people trying to explain things to me. It's like I felt like the need that I needed to study that. I would watch my father in great detail, but then I would go off on my own and repeat everything, doing it over and over again until I got it right. Like, I remember one time, the first time I wanted to start a fire, on my own, in the old-fashioned way, right? So I remember I would fashion my own, the sticks needed to do it, and the base of it, and going out and collecting the tinder and the kindling for it. And I would literally rub, because I would try to use a bow starter kit. And I remember as I think I was like 13, 14, I rubbed my hands and fingers raw, but I would literally do it until I got that fire started, and I would keep it going. And I'd have me a little sleeping bag, and I would just go out away from where my family was camping, and I would pick me a spot, and I would stay out there for days at a time. I would hunt, and then I would come back, But then we would move back, so when school would start. So, but my mom also, she taught us too. It was like she home teached us, right? Which I am so grateful that she did. Because the times when I was in public schools, that's when my solitary nature really kicked in, and it didn't go well in the public schools, man. Because the teachers, of course, they always thought they thought I was just like a special kid, but they just didn't understand, And I would test out on everything, I was very smart. I read a lot of books and stuff too, so But that's another factor where I got my where I just over those years as growing up, I developed that need of me and that love and fascination of being a lone wolf, even from way back when I was young. I was just developing it back then. And as I got older and I graduated, this was like when I was, 17. Then it was even more so because I had no friends at all during my high school years. I avoided it, I avoided it like the plague. I didn't want girlfriends, and very, very rarely would I have any guy friends, except ones that I guess, even back then, ones that were like outsiders, I'd have like one or two at a time. And but anyway, around that time I started feeling the need. I wanted to join the army. So I think at like 17, I think it was like 17 and a half is when I joined the army. And I told my family about it, and I said, yeah, this is what I want to do. And so I did. I didn't officially graduate high school. I just kind of tested out, right? Because it just wasn't for me, man. They were always wanting to set me back because they just didn't understand, But so when I did join the army, that was one of the things, They said, well, you don't have your official high school diploma, so you can either go get, I think it was like 20 college credit hours, or I think it was 15 college credit hours, right? So I went to just a little college. I think this was somewhere in Oklahoma. I can't remember the name of the school exactly. And it's probably changed by now. That was so many years ago. But anyway, I did. I went and I got 15 college credit hours, and I aced it, man. And that was when I remember my history professor. He was the one that said, this is. He was so enthralled with my my research paper that I did for my final grade in that class, and that class. And I remember him telling me, he's like, maybe you shouldn't go in the army. You should pursue it, because I think you would either be a great researcher or a great historian. And but I didn't. I was so infatuated with getting into the army because there was other skill sets I wanted to develop, right? And the sense of adventure as well. So I did. I joined the army, and 2 months later I was on a bus and I was headed to Fort Benning, Georgia. That's the fort where all the infantry get trained. And I was there for 13 and a half weeks, because I went through basic and AIT training all at the same time. And so I finished that out, and I did excellent there as well. I was like high marksman, I did so well on the shooting part of the AIT that I remember them on there, because I made it expert on it, but I did it in such a way, man, because I was always a good shooter. My father taught me how to shoot when I was growing up, especially when we were out camping and all that. But I was kind of like a natural at it, I guess. But and they wanted me to go and when I finished AIT, that was one of the things. They suggested that I go into the sniper training or sniper school. And of course I didn't at that time. I just I picked 11 Bravo, light infantry division. And so I remember I after graduation at Fort Benning, and I was shipped off to my MOS station. My duty station ended up being Fort Drum, New York. Way up north in New York. It's close to the Canadian border there. It's close to the Niagara Falls. Close to, I think, like Buffalo was like south of there. But yeah, it was very cold, very, very cold. And for a southern boy, that was a wake-up call. But I got like 3 weeks at home with my family, and I spent that, and then I packed my rucksack, and I was on a plane to Fort Drum, New York. And when I got up there, boy, that was the hardest time, was being up there. Brutal, because it was 10th Mountain Division is what I was in. And I got up there, and yeah. That's where the real training kicked in. And from then on, I end up in being as a sniper. That was my main training there once I got initiated into it. Because I was always I was a skinny boy when I was younger, and especially back then, because I was only like 19 I was 19 when I got up to Fort Drum. And that was the place back then, because that was still the time when it was rough and up there, because your instructors and stuff, they could still smack you around if if they wanted to. They could, if they deemed it necessary. Which it was proper training, because young guys like that, when you're learning the discipline, you need that excessive force when you're getting trained, because you got to think about that. You're in an infantry training unit, so in order to properly prepare someone, especially that young, for a combat situation, you can't really hold back, man. You gotta make the training as realistic as you can, and you've got to let them know that if you did get deployed and you went to the front lines, it's no longer games. It's no longer games. It's the real deal. You're getting shot at, and you're shooting back, and it's it's very brutal and raw. But yeah, I still remember the 100-mile road marches we would do from Fort Drum, New York. We'd start off at the base, and we'd go follow the whole circle around the base, and you'd end up going through parts of Watertown, New York. And you literally would walk until your damn feet either blistered up completely to where you couldn't walk no more, and they would be on your ass the whole time. Keep going. It was rough, but it at the same time it was exciting. But I did that, and I won't go into a whole lot of details about how that went down, because some of that is I don't share those aspects of my full deployments and stuff like that and what I went through. But I will say that I did get into some live stuff, so because that was around the time when they were messing over in the Middle East. I think that was when the Bush Senior was in, so yeah. But yeah, I won't go into too much of that, because I feel like I don't need to, really. But anyway, I did my time in the military, and I got out. I came back to civilian life, and then when I got back to the civilian life after my deployments and all that, and I got back to civilian life, that is when the lone wolf in me really came to fruition. I had no wants or desires or anything of any human interaction. It was rough as fuck, I tried doing civilian jobs, and it was just to the point to where, because right when I first got out at that time, well, I was a no frills, no bullshit, right? So, and a lot of civilian bosses, they just don't understand that, and a lot of them didn't care, So, and the way they would go about things, I didn't mix well, man, and I wouldn't hold back. So, needless to say, me and the civilian job market didn't last long. I didn't keep very many jobs down. When I would do them, they wouldn't last long, maybe 6 months. I think the longest after at one point was like a year that I managed to do one. But so then I got to thinking, well, I'm going to have money, because I'm not retired military, so I wouldn't be getting a pension until I got older. So, I mean, I had my VA card and all that, but yeah, none of that. It was none of the stuff, all the stuff they have now, it was non-existent back then. You just had your honorable discharge. That was it. So I ended up driving a truck. I ended up driving a truck around the country. I was an OTR driver. And I did that for 15 years, And it was perfect for me, because as a lone wolf, it was the perfect setup, man. I was in a 18-wheeler truck, It had a nice sleeper size in it. Well, I take that back. The first ones back then were those old cab overs, but they still had a sleeper berth in back, and you had enough room to set you, like a microwave and things to cook, like a little TV, like the little TVs with the VCR things, combos with them. And I drove my ass off, man. I drove all over the United States many times. Many cities and towns in the U.S. I'd been to so many times I lost count. And I did that for 15 years. And then I retired from trucking. Actually, it was due to an accident I had. I ended up falling out of the cab over. One misstep, man. Yeah, it was snowing. This was I think this was up on Wyoming. I was stopping to get fuel, and they had shut the roads down for snow conditions. But I stepped out of there and slipped on that top step and just fell right out of the cab of the truck, and ended up shattering my my ankle. So that was the end of that for a while. But I ended up just I'm not going to do it anymore. And let's see, I was around, I think I was like 36 when that happened. So I took the money that I got from that, and I just kind of ended up going on my own, and as a lone wolf, really that was perfect for me, because I just got me a place, and little place. It wasn't much, and I did that for a while, and I ended up getting into some more civilian work. But yeah, so even all the way back, I've always been this way. Now, granted, I take that back. Around that time is when I ended up out of the misguided. I shouldn't have listened. I should have known, but my sister and my mom wanted to. They were like, "Oh, you ought to get, you ought to find you someone. You ought to get married and have kids." And so they were playing matchmaker. And anyway, I ended up trying to have a relationship with this woman, and it lasted for 3 years, but I'm telling you, man, those 3 years were the most miserable 3 years of my life, because we lived together that whole time, and it was the most miserable existence ever for me, because the lone wolf in me, and she had kids from a previous marriage, and needless to say, that was horrible. It didn't last. And I got out of that, and from then on, you know, I went 12 years after 12 years after that, and that didn't that pretty much set in my mind, look, I'm staying a lone wolf. But yeah, I know it was actually 13 years, so I had no I went back to my lone wolf ways, my solitary ways, and did my own thing. And that was this is tying into when I tried this past relationship, which was a year ago. So I just felt I needed to tell all that backstory. But you know, and it I see a lot of things now talking about, and I know a lot of these is just I guess the modern times, you know, that these especially the younger people now, I guess what, Gen Z or whatever, but you know, I guess the dating scene and all that stuff is really horrible now, you know. So, and I can totally understand why I see a lot of these videos and stuff where people are talking, you know, especially content creators that's geared for, like, you know, telling people that it's just not a good thing for marriage, you know, and how marriage is not a thing of how it should be done anymore, or it's just kind of fading away, I guess, the new way. And but I also see a lot of guys, you know, and they're talking about loneliness, you know, like how they don't really want to be alone, but at the same time they don't want to be miserable and disrespected and you know, treated like shit, and you know, in these modern marriages where they're going to get taken advantage of, you know. Well, for an example, you take a guy that meets a woman online, or just in general anywhere, you know, and he's thinking, well, you know, this is you know, because it's so easy for a man to be deceived, right? Because I see this, you know, and I often wonder, like, is the feministic way, I mean, is it literally where they just their standards for they honestly really just see men as a commodity or a resource? It's crazy how I see videos on them where they're talking, and it's like they want a man to provide for them and give them everything, but at the same time they don't want to bring anything to the table at all. In other words, it's all about them, and the man just doesn't need to expect anything. So in that regard, oh hell no. Hell no. So I do totally understand why a lot of guys are truly miserable and alone and lonely, you know. Lonely because there is no options for them. You know, and some they it literally is so depressing for them. It's sad, really, because and you know, they're talking about they're going their own ways and stuff like that. I really can't blame them, but at the same time, being alone is not for every man. You know, some of them, they really want to be married, they really want to have a family, and they really want to try, but it's just in today's I guess today's modern society, it's just here in the West, it's just it's too toxic for them. And I can say that because the last relationship I was in was very toxic indeed. And I often wondered if she was just had narcissistic behaviors, or if she was just like an extreme feminist. I don't know. Now, I'm sure that might piss some people off or rub them the wrong way, but you know, hey, I'm speaking it how I see it. These are my opinions on it, but I've also had some life experiences on it to see it. So I've always seen it for what it is. Now, see, myself, I thrive being a lone wolf, but at the same time, if you're a man that just cannot achieve that or can't do it, and it's too hard for you, then my advice would be to try to really, if you're not at that point to where you don't want to give up completely, then I would say don't give up completely. You're gonna have to go slow at it, and really, really, really vet any potential women that you date. You've got to vet them. You've got to do your research, man, and don't jump the gun. Don't be quick to do it. Take as much time as you need. And if she does not want that, she doesn't agree to that, or she's like not wanting to wait all that time, or she gets upset when you ask her questions for vetting, then I would strongly tell you to just walk away. Just walk away right then, because that's a sure sign right there that she's only in it for one thing. But yeah, me myself, I'll never do that again. I have decided long ago that solitary life until the day I die is the most logical and fulfilling thing for me, for my life, really. It's how I thrive. It's what keeps me healthy. I am more focused, and I don't know. It's just I'm really full of life right now, and I'm thankful for it, because it has been a year since the last one, and I have improved so much. At 54 years old, I'm in better health and better shape, and both spiritually and mentally and physically than I've ever been. I have all my hobbies that I do. I live out in the country. I have my dog. I have my pets, and it's just a way of living and a way of life that I've chose. And I've really, this journal is basically just for those that actually want to know me, or family members that I don't really talk to as much anymore. Really, for anyone that wants to know me. That's why I'm doing these video journals, just maybe so they'll get a better understanding, because this is things I don't talk to. I don't talk about things like this to people at all. This is a rare occasion where I'm sharing it like this, in a format like this. But I'm gonna end this log entry, video log entry 2. I'm going to end it, and I guess you guys are going to have to wait until the next episode for log entry number 3. And who knows what I'll go into then. Maybe I'll talk about some of my creations that I've been doing. And I hope all of you are doing well in life. And for those fellow gentlemen out there that are struggling right now with being alone and not understanding things, keep dropping those comments down below, and I do appreciate the comments, and feel free to just talk your piece, talk from your soul, man, and I'll do my best to reply to your comments, all of them. Until then, this is video log entry number 2, signing off.